Hello and welcome. My name is Tom. This is the Enthusiasm Project Season 10, Episode 4, Personal Discoveries Galore, because as that ska-themed intro lets you know, I have returned from my ska-batical, and my wife Heather is here to groan at that joke. So, before we jump into things, yes, we're going to pick up kind of where the last episode left. So if you're listening in real time, there's been several weeks in between episodes, which is a tad unusual. If you're listening at some point in the future, hello in the future, but you might have just heard the last episode like 5 minutes ago. But we're gonna kind of continue now on the other side of that journey.
Yes,
because it's been very, very interesting few weeks. And before that, though, just to answer the gear questions, which is one of my favorite things to always talk about. Today, only one thing has changed from the last episode that you heard. So today I'm recording on the Earthworks Ethos, going into the Rodecaster Duo on the condenser mic setting, same as last time. Heather is recording into the Rodecaster Duo on the SM7B setting, but she's using the Blue Sona microphone. So the only thing that has changed is the microphone that she's using, and this is what those sound like. So that's the gear that we're using today and what you're hearing us on today. So let's just jump into it.
Sorry. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. All right, Tom. So it's been 2 weeks.
It's been even longer than 2 weeks.
Oh, gosh.
I want to point that out. 15 days is longer than 2 weeks.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right.
Look, I was struggling to take 1 week off, and we did 15 days. And as of the time we're recording this, today is my first day back.
Yeah.
I still haven't actually checked anything. Yeah. So this is like kind of the first thing we're doing. So I'm still in this blissful world of ignorance over here.
Yes, and Tom did not shave his head, did not go into monkhood or anything, but is a changed man. I can say that. I think you can say that.
I can say that. I think both of us. What's really cool is this started out as something for me. Like it was interesting because you had said so many of the big changes in your life came about reactively. You know,
yes.
Like you left your job because of the pandemic. You started a YouTube channel because of a bunch of changes in your personal life. Like,
yeah,
it's they're great things, but they're done in reaction to something. What if you made a big change proactively?
Yeah, you just decided.
Yeah, because I didn't feel that. Definitely didn't feel like, oh, I need a vacation or I need a break or I'm burnt out or anything. But as soon as that decision was made, this weight was lifted off my shoulders that was so like physically tangible that it was kind of a sign that, oh, something is happening here.
Something was real heavy.
Something was heavy. And
yeah.
And so then you were there to support me through that, because a big thing is having, it's one thing to say like, oh, I'm just going to step away from everything for a couple weeks, but it's also irresponsible in a way because how
this is our bread and butter.
Scary the internet is. Something like a YouTube channel could potentially just disappear or have something terrible happen to it. So you were really, really helpful over the past few weeks of checking in.
Tom stepped away from everything. Yeah. Everything online that is the brand that is Tom Buck. That's social media, that's making videos, that's checking analytics, that's checking your email. All you stepped away from all of that.
Even personally, though, it's like it's not like, oh, I've been like I haven't. Thank God, it's been great actually not going on Twitter. I don't think I want to go back to that.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, none of that. I haven't checked any emails. I haven't checked any analytics. 2 videos have come out. I have no idea how they performed, and they're videos I was really excited about. So I was like, oh no! Like I even thought like maybe I should schedule different videos to come out this. But no, that's not. I didn't think that was the answer. So,
and I took over for a little bit.
You took over,
just in a checking capacity.
Yeah, you just made sure things.
I didn't respond or do anything.
You just every day you just kind of made sure there weren't any fires to put out.
Yeah,
and that really helped me because then I could. I didn't have anxiety.
Yeah.
Over like, oh my God, like is it all falling apart?
Yeah,
because so. The reason I'm saying that is if you're somebody who's like, man, I'd like to step away for a while. I'm not saying just ignore everything altogether, but if you have a way of having somebody help you or something to kind of...
We did a little prep.
Yeah, we did a little prep. And that made a world of difference because it put my mind at ease for the whole time.
So based off the last episode, I think the root of why I had suggested a 2-week sabbatical is that even though there wasn't any, particular event or something like that, I felt like I was starting to notice from the outside that you had been, you'd been saying things like, oh, I don't feel like I'm in control. Or then that like one video happened where just roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. You love bringing that back. Because it's like fake. Yes, roadblock, Tom, roadblock. But it was just like, I felt like, I don't know, it just felt like you had been outgrowing. I felt like you had been outgrowing the system. Well, and not that there was a specific way to upgrade, but I felt like the answer, if you don't know what the specific upgrade is, like, okay, the monitor's too small, get a bigger one. If you don't know what the specific upgrade is, I felt like take time away and just see where your mind goes so that you can have a fresh perspective. And if you just come back and nothing else changes, then great.
Well, and that's kind of what I don't know where things will go, but I feel like if you watch a video, like whatever the next video I make ends up being, if you watch that and you didn't listen to these podcast episodes, you're not going to know anything happened.
Yeah.
Very similar to when I quit my job and I didn't make a big quit my job announcement video.
Yeah.
Most people had no idea. My whole world changed, but nobody
knew.
But
at the end of the day, you have been doing what you like doing. So
yeah.
So you've been making YouTube videos.
Yeah, making the videos is not the problem.
So describe like the not feeling control part.
What I have discovered over the past couple of weeks is there are voices, as Tom DeLonge would say, there are voices in my head, and they have finally started to be quiet. And what I mean by that is the internet is loud, the world is loud, and when you make something that is out in public and has, it's crazy because when you think of like, I have been told if I put out a video and it gets, I don't know, 2,000 to 3,000 views or something, people are like, that video. I've had people say like, it's a shame that video didn't do well. And it's like, yeah,
that's crazy because it's like how many people stepped into the Sistine Chapel when Michelangelo did that thing? I don't think it was 2,000 people. Okay,
but it's like even the things that feel like, oh, those are just like tiny numbers and not enough is an absurd amount of like voices and feedback and opinions, and that's coming in all these different directions all day, every day. And it's hard. So just even that by itself, even with the best of intentions, just trying to make something and think, I have shown you many times, I will get a video and I'll have 2 comments on the same video that's like, I hate your jokes. It's like you think you're funny, but you're not. This video would actually be useful if you didn't waste our time with that. And right below that, there's somebody who's like, subscribe just for the jokes, keep it up. 2 comments on the exact same video. What do I do with this?
Yeah, what does a human do?
And I know that the answer is, well, it's not for one person, it is for the other person. But when you have those kinds of things happen
always, all day,
to an exponential degree, it's very hard then, okay, now I'm going to make a video. Like, it's in my nature to make stupid jokes, so I can't not do that. But is there a way I can do that where it's not like, and then what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing this?
I can literally feel like the effect, like that camera effect where it zooms out and the room gets bigger, but then I don't know.
The vertigo effect?
Yeah, that. Yeah. Oh my God,
a dolly zoom?
Oh, I feel so, I can see why you felt the way you felt, especially after having checked your channel for 2 weeks. I can see how you got there.
And that's even like you checked my channel, and like you said, I think you deleted 1 comment in the past 2 weeks. I don't know that our judgment on what gets deleted is the same or not, because I haven't seen any, but
I actually don't remember. But I honestly don't remember.
But the point is, though, in however many comments came in over the past few weeks,
hundreds of hundreds, yeah, for sure.
It's easy to go like, oh, well, this person showed up and just threw insults or whatever, just block them.
No, it wasn't that. That's the problem. If it were easy, like troll ones, okay, then if you're going to be disrespectful, this isn't even worth this is not even worth it. But
right.
But oh my God, the first week for me was really hard because I would go through your comments and it was just question after question after question after question after question after question. And it's like, okay, the thing is, I know Tom in his nature, he is helpful. He's a career teacher. He wants to be supportive. And what's crazy is he has an answer to every single one of these questions. Oh, my poor husband, who is just drowning in this.
But isn't that a privileged place to be, though? And that's where I've been stuck.
And then, like, what a privileged position to be in, because by answering these questions, isn't this going to also grow your channel? Isn't this part of the maintenance of having a YouTube channel?
Isn't it important?
Of course.
Yeah.
People are taking their time. I mean, yes.
People are giving me their time to interact with something I made. Like you said, I have an answer. Someone asked a question, I have an answer to it. It feels so bad not to give them the answer because it's like it's in my brain right here. I could just put it out there. But
just me who didn't have the answers, I was exhausted looking at it. Like, I was like, dang, this is so much for one person to handle. How the heck do you have energy to now be creative after this?
And this stuff here, we're all still talking about independent things. If you want to talk about not feeling in control, then talk about, I know I have my ethics statement and all of that stuff, which is hugely helpful and really important. But even still, recognizing that there is this outside pressure of...
If everyone in your niche is talking about this thing, how do you not feel like, okay, maybe I need to talk about that thing?
Right.
Or there's this new thing that's super exciting that is launching in 2 weeks. Like,
yeah, we are recording into the Rodecaster Duo right now. This is new. This is Nuo. I haven't been on YouTube in a couple weeks, so I actually don't know how many videos there are about this, or if it's actually, I don't even know if it's out yet, like if people are getting theirs yet. I don't know. What I do know is if I made a video about this, it would do really well right now. And I've not made a video about this, and I think I want to, because I actually really like using it. Like the more I've used it, the more I really like it. But that might be 3 months from now, maybe. Like or it could be next week. I really don't know. But the point is, that control thing is feeling like, oh my God, okay, I have to road release these 3 new products. I have to do that video now. And then this company set this thing over here. It would be really rude of me. I know I'm not obligated to do anything, but geez.
You have a whole ethics statement that says that you're not obligated to do anything, but geez.
I feel rude. And so then there's that layer of not being in control. And then the stuff that happens like with the road thing, where then the company starts having an opinion of like, well, we would prefer if you take this down, because then it's like, I didn't even...
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's happening. A problem here.
There's a lot happening.
And that
how do you, through all that, even hear your own voice?
It's very hard, and you kind of don't.
So now that you've been on the flip side, which is total silence, and it's just your voice.
So nice.
Well, let's talk about that, because obviously this isn't sustainable. Like, I feel like, it's a balance. You got to find some kind of middle ground. But being aware of like this other option, like this is the flip side. Like, you just had everything on, and I feel like what you were doing is like you were building it as you went. So obviously, like, when you get one comment at 50 subscribers, this is amazing. And you're going to carry that same weight, even though you're getting hundreds of comments a day.
Well, that's exactly what it is like, okay, so you start a channel. You and I both, we've talked about this so many times. We both start our channels just from a place of wonder and from a place of like,
this is
cool?
Awesome. Yeah.
No ideas about YouTube or YouTube strategy or best practices or anything.
I didn't go into it thinking that this was going to be my job. I was just like, this is fun.
I like making videos.
The same way that I feel like, someone who knits is just going to make a sweater or whatever. Like that was my thing. I was just like, this is so cool. I love that I can do this.
Yeah.
That I have this, that I don't know. There was just such a sense of pride. And like, even when I'm going off a tangent now, but like, I remember I had the YouTube sticker on my laptop, and I intentionally sat where people can see the sticker because I wanted people to ask me about YouTube, because I thought it was so cool. It was not because it was like,
not a promotional thing.
What's my channel? Go subscribe, blah, blah, blah. No, it was just like, what's crazy? I have a YouTube channel, but you can too. Like, there's no there's no prerequisite. Like, anyone can just share what they're interested in or passionate about or whatever.
Yeah. And which, by the way, you mentioned knitting. Do you know what you say if 50 Cent gives you a sweater?
What?
Gee, you knit?
Wow. Oh my God. Okay.
On a similar vein, there is a concert coming up that costs only 45 cents, and it is 50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
Okay, we're done.
I don't have this is the closest one I got. That's the closest sound effect I got loaded in.
We're
Anyway,
done, Tom.
this is my art. So, okay, getting things back on track with the voices and all of the things. It's starting the channel. You start it from a place of wonder, and you just start doing what you want. And like, there's nobody watching. You were the only person watching at first, and every once in a while, every couple of days, a comment would come in. Of course, I'm going to reply to that. That takes
like how cool. Isn't that why we started? Because like part of it is like we get to connect with people that are just on the other side of the universe.
You do want the connection.
Yeah.
Like you do want to connect with people. And then as it grows, you're like, well, I'll just keep doing that. Sure, there's more comments now that I have 2,000 subscribers, but I can keep up with it. And then there's myself and a number of people whose channels grow and still are like, I read and reply to every comment. And it's like, that sounds almost like a badge of honor. But for me, it definitely became like, that's a full-time job.
Well, so we came to the realization that we do have like a limited capacity for
attention. It kind of came down to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's maybe you can get a second wind, but that you can't count on that, you know? And if you have like, if you start the day with 100% and what used to take 1% is now taking 30% because of the volume of it, that's taking time away from the thing that you have a lot of fun with, which is making videos.
Well, so, right. And so when it comes to feeling control or in control or whatever, like there were a couple things. Like one, I really hated the idea that any kind of outside brand or company or whatever would have any influence on the stuff that I make. Like, and I didn't think that it would, and I didn't want it to, and I really that was like really the thing that set off the alarm that we started even wondering like, okay, should something be done in the first place?
Right.
And then there's the other stuff, which is the channel grew, so things need to change, and the stuff that you're doing when you're just starting out a channel that's good for the channel might not be the same thing you need to do that's good for it. And the analogy that I like that works for me is the tree. Is if you plant a small tree, sometimes you put a wooden stake next to it to keep it straight. And if you need it, sometimes you have like 3 wooden stakes around a tree or more to like keep it growing straight. But as the tree grows, you take those supports away and the tree can stand on its own. And I feel like if my YouTube channel is a tree, it has like 15 different stakes holding it up that were put in as it grew. And I haven't taken the time to step back and go, wait.
Do you even still need this stick,
this is a big tree right now.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't need these, so let's take these all away, see what the tree does, and if it needs supports, then we can add in specific ones for this specific version of the tree.
Well, maybe analogy is like, so you wanted to ride a bike, and so you put on training wheels.
Yeah.
And like, you're getting better, but instead of taking off the training wheels, you just like got new ones.
Yeah.
Or like tried
to more training wheels.
You put on more wheels, and it's like, bro, take them off. Like you're way past this, you know?
It is sort of that. And so
it's just kind of a re-examination.
I
think especially with YouTube, because it is in the grand scheme of things a new thing. Like knitting's been around. YouTube has not been around, and it changes every day. So who can really say that they're an expert at it? But of course, if the gauge for success is number of subscribers and you have less than someone who has, 1 million, then obviously that's the expert now. And we're going to look to them as the example, which by the way, for every expert, I can find someone who's done it in the total opposite way and has seen success. But I think because it was new, a lot of what we did was, look to the experts, but then also just trial and error or build it as it happens or react, right? So it's like, oh, this is happening. Let me do this in response to that thing.
Yeah.
And I think just like you've been intentional and proactive with this time off, what if you apply that same thing to your channel moving forward, knowing now that you're no longer a novice. You're no longer, I'm building the channel. I'm growing the channel. It's like, okay, I think it's safe to say that you are at a level where it's going to like sustain, even if you just kept everything the same. But in order to like grow bigger, I think like, I don't know, trusting yourself to do it your way.
Yes.
Trusting yourself to do it your way, not the way that it's been done, but your way.
Yes, that's
and it's impossible for you to hear your way if you have a bunch of voices in your head.
Yeah, no, it really is. And so that has been a thing. It's like, because even like watching YouTube, I haven't like watched YouTube,
and that was hard for you to agree.
That's my main entertainment source.
Yeah, like, of course, but it also is your main inspiration source, which isn't a bad thing. But it's like it's really hard not to watch a YouTube video and be like,
right. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes I have in the past gone into it going like, kind of seeking that. Like, okay, I want to watch some videos because I want to get some kind of inspiration. I want to have an idea. And that, I think that's really helpful. It's like going on social media and going, okay, I want to check these specific things. And then you check it and you're done. It's actually really helpful. It's when your defenses are down and it's the mindless scrolling and refreshing. And then
when you're influenceable,
you're very, very easily influenced. And then something pops up and it can easily make you feel like, oh, I don't do things that way. Or should I be doing this? Or I was going to do this and now maybe I should do that.
And it's so subtle. Like, I don't even think you feel it, you know?
Yeah. If it weren't subtle, it'd be very easy to, you know, to
recognize when it's happening.
Right. And so having all of those voices gone has been really nice because it's then my voice got louder and I
know. And you had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. And I really like that.
It felt, it was different in the house. Like even the way, the thing, I mean, you could talk about what you worked on, you know, and like,
oh, sure.
Yeah. I felt like even the things that we were talking about were just so, it was more about like the art of it, you know, like expressing something from your experience versus like, this is, you know, this is the trend.
You and I have always appreciated art and gravitated towards art, but have never considered ourselves artists.
I don't know why. It's so annoying.
Well, because when you think of video art, you don't think of a mic review or a Canva tutorial or something. But those things that we're making are expressions of ourselves. Like your art can be its own thing. It doesn't have to be, you know, this weird abstract.
Yeah.
Like
a statement.
Yeah. I mean, thinking of like, oh, wow, if I were to make a video about this Rodecaster here, it would be a piece of like my art that I'm making and sharing with the world. And whatever the thing I'm making then is going, that's a very different way of approaching it than like, than another way than I had been approaching that kind of stuff. And the freedom then to move beyond that and go, okay, well, what do I care about? What am I interested in? Sometimes,
what is your voice saying?
Sometimes that will line up with things that that are already interesting to an audience. Like, oh, everyone's talking about this. I'm super interested in it. I'd love to, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes, and that feeling of like, well, here's an idea I really want to do, but I should do these 5 ideas first is, you know, like.
And no one's telling you to do that either.
No, but it's hard. And no one is, but it's hard. It's hard not to just feel, you know, like you should.
Yeah.
You should. And that's what is the slogan we came up with?
Shoulds. No, butts or shoulds, shoulds or butts. Something like that. I wrote it.
Butts come from shoulds.
That's what it is.
Which might sound like gibberish, but what that means is I noticed that over the past year, especially, every time people would ask something like, hey, you know, like, are you gonna do live streams anymore? Or like, man, you haven't posted a video on your second channel in a while. Both are things that I want to do. I like doing live streams. I like making second channel videos. My response would be like, oh, I really want to do second channel, but I need to, you know, finish this over here. Or I really love to do a live stream, but I'm in the middle of this project over here. And a lot of times the thing that I'm in the middle of, the thing I'm working on, is something I feel like I should be doing. And so what ends up happening is the thing that I want to do becomes a but. It becomes I want to do that, but because I'm doing something I feel like I should be doing. It would be totally different if I said, I really want to do this thing over here, but I have something I want to do even more first.
Right.
very different. That does not come from a should. It's shoulds. I feel like I should be doing things this way. I should, like, the shoulding.
Yeah, and that's the shoulding, I feel like, is what has made you feel not in control.
Yes.
And what's hard, the reason why it was just so hard for you to figure this out is that no one is telling you the shoulds. It's you. It's like you put these up.
Yeah. But you don't realize it.
Yeah,
and there's,
of course.
you know, like, as we've gotten into sports over the past year,
yes.
going to hockey games and stuff. One joke early on was like, there were like 2 or 3 games in a row where our team was down and I went to the restroom and they scored while I was in the bathroom. And it kind of became a joke if they were doing it. I was like, maybe we should just go to the bathroom. Which is funny. And then learning, especially, I'm sure every sport is like this, but I know since hockey is a sport that I know, the superstitions among hockey players are over the top.
A lot.
It's a lot. Like, it goes, I mean, obsessive compulsive disorder is like right there. It's pretty crazy. And you do, and I understand it, because it's like, maybe a player,
it's hard not to draw patterns.
It's hard not to draw patterns, especially when things feel so out of control. Like,
yeah.
A player can't, you have your skill, but in a hockey game, things change.
Yeah. There's so many things not in your control.
There's so many things out of your control. Just like in the world of YouTube, there's so many things out of your control. So if this player knows, well, I mean, whatever, like, I sprayed this like coach with water before the game started during warm-ups that one day, and then we won by 2 points.
And that happened twice.
So every day during warm-ups, I have to spray this person with water now. And it's I mean, that's where like OCD comes from, is those kinds of things where it's like, it's this compulsion to give yourself control over a world that feels out of control. And obviously you could break that down logically and go like, that guy getting sprayed with water has nothing to do with whether or not you score a goal. Whoa. The same way that like a lot of the shoulds and things that I feel, those are things that popped up. Well, I did this and then the channel grew, or a video did well, or I made something I was proud of, so now I should keep doing that.
Yeah, you're checking every comment, because why wouldn't you check every comment?
Right.
And now you get hundreds and hundreds. It's like,
right. And that kind of thing, just reevaluating it, taking a step back and reevaluating it, has been very important. And just, figuring out where stuff fits, or in some cases doesn't fit anymore. And that's okay. And I think part of me not wanting to do that too is feeling defensive, because it's hard to decide that you've been doing something, you decided to do something for a reason. You've been doing it for a long time.
You put so much time, effort, energy, blood, sweat, and tears to like, for every nut and bolt of your system to make it what it is. And you should be damn proud of what you built.
But I think that there's just a natural defensiveness that comes by going like, oh, well, maybe I don't need this anymore. It feels like, well, does that mean I've been doing it wrong? What's easy to do is say, I don't need to change anything.
Right.
Because
I can even hear this is when I would say something like, maybe, immediately you'd be like, no, here's the reason why this thing is there. And I know why. I know that. Yeah. We know you do everything thoughtfully.
Right.
Like, obviously you wouldn't put it there if it didn't have a purpose. But if not only is YouTube changing, the world is changing, but you are changing.
I'm growing up.
Yeah. But I think, I don't remember if we mentioned this, but I think what we've described the past 2 weeks is that it kind of feels like a recognition of a graduation.
Yeah.
Where, you have your skill set, you have a mastery, but getting back to that sense of wonder at the beginning, because isn't that like,
you have the sense of wonder, but you don't have
combined
the skill set.
With, yeah.
So then you go to school, you get the skill set, and now you got to go back, and now you could iterate and innovate on your original sense of wonder with your skills and experience. But yeah, you're not going to sit there still just doing the same math problems out of the math book. Like, yeah, cool, that taught you how to solve those kinds of problems. But
you have made 500 videos. Like, you're no matter what video you make, it's going to be at a certain level, even if you bare minimum did. Right. That is just a fact, because you have the skill set, you have this experience, you have years under your belt, and on YouTube, which is a lot. I mean, that's probably like, you know, if we statistically looked at it, that's probably like I would say in the, you know, traditional equivalent of like 50 years in
It's
the
like
same
dog
career.
years.
Yeah. Because it's not even that old. And like, how many people make it that far?
And it changes so much. And
now you have that combined with like your voice.
right. And so the silence of the outside voices has been really important. And then the other big realization, I don't know if this was where you wanted to guide us, but it's the thing that I think helped everything, was realizing that my priorities were essentially like inverted.
Right.
For some reason. And all of these things are things you wouldn't realize unless you took time to step back. You can't see it when you're in it.
Say it again for Tom Buck in the past, because I feel like it was very hard for you to be like, why should I take time off?
Yeah, it made no sense to me.
Yeah, but say that again.
You need to step back to gain perspective. And we've talked about, like, don't wait until you feel like you need to do this again. Regularly plan to just step away, because
that is part of it. Like, that's just the maintenance part of it.
Yeah, you're not doing it because you don't. It feels like, well, I'm going to just step away from everything.
Yeah, I'm going to go on vacation or whatever.
It's because you care about it.
Yes.
And because you want to do it as good as you possibly can.
I think stepping away allowed you to reflect in a world that is so fast,
and
in
loud.
your system that is week by week, day by day is like prescribed.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck are you going? Like, the new can only come in you know,
right,
the smallest slots in the box that you fill.
It's to fit all these very specific requirements for something new to pop up.
Yeah,
versus...
and so you just need to step away, and it's not because you did anything wrong, but you know, it's just part of the maintenance.
Right.
So inverted.
That was that was I think the biggest overall realization, because it affects everything, and I think is the realization that's going to help me
moving forward, and
to help me not fall into the same patterns before. And what that means by inverted is I was raised thinking that work is supposed to suck. And it's supposed to be difficult. It's not supposed to be fun. That's why it's called work and not play. And if you have things you want to do that are fun and that you enjoy, those go on your own time. And your own time is whatever you're lucky enough to get from work. You don't like ask for time off. You don't carve that out. You do your thing, whatever you find. And that gets smashed in with errands and obligations and all that
life,
stuff.
Yeah.
Then maybe you can carve out a little time to go tinker with your thing over there. But so that's like how I've always viewed work.
Sure.
When I started my YouTube channel was
play,
because making videos, and I love making videos. And then
plus you had work,
and I had work, and so I would go to work, which felt like work, and then I would come play with the YouTube channel. And then especially once I left my job, it was like, well, I can't just be over here playing all day. I need to work. So what are and the channel's growing, so all these other things that I feel like I should be doing are growing. I mean, the reason I was able to leave is because the channel was growing, so it's all connected. But then it's like, for me, that work is a lot of like, I don't know what to call it, but like admin duties, which is hard to explain because it involves a lot of like email and communications and that kind of stuff. Which is like, it doesn't sound like much.
Comments and, you know, I would say even research, like paying attention to what's happening in your space. And, you know, I think in order to like, people look at you as a trusted person in this space because you are so knowledgeable of this space, you know? So I think even like being aware of that is part of it. In order to be aware of that, you have to do
be
research.
In it.
Yeah, you have to be in it.
Yeah. There's an episode of King of the Hill.
There's always a freaking episode of the King of the Hill. This is the second time he's done this to me.
Legendary show. There's an episode where Bobby accidentally joins the debate club because they're weak on the pop culture thing, and he just is a pop culture guy, and so he answers all these questions and stuff. And then he does really well, and the team's like, "Okay, we need you. You're our pop culture person." And he's like, "Great, I know all this stuff," but then like, "No, you need to study up." And so he's like, "Okay," he's trying to the episode culminates with him having a panic attack in like the electronics department of like a Best Buy, kind of like in front of a wall of TVs, because he's trying to like, this person was in this movie where they met this person and dated this person who went over here and like this movie was released in this and a box office draw, and it's like, and he just has a panic attack and like freaks out and needs to stop. And that's kind of what it feels like, is like, I'm just super interested in this stuff, but now it's sort of, there's this shift that happened, and that is really what it felt like, that episode. And it feels like the stuff that I really enjoy. I mean, the making videos is what I call it, but that can include like, sometimes that's making a podcast, sometimes that's working on a website. It's like making the thing, like really work. That's so fun. And sometimes it's difficult and sometimes it's exhausting, but it's like that. You want to talk about flow state? Like that is where hours and hours go by and I don't even realize it. And
you forget to eat. You're so in the zone. You're just like,
yeah, if I'm spending a couple of hours doing emails with brands or something, I am dead.
I know, it's exhausting.
If I spend,
which sounds so like, I don't know, first world problems, but
I mean, it sounds like a first world problem, but I guess I don't even want to say that it is, because it's like minimizing a thing. It's a lot of energy. And then yes, like you said, maybe there's something that I feel the need to help someone out with, but now I'm going to spend 20 minutes researching an answer to get. And then now I have spent 3 hours like trying to do back end stuff on the channel. And what I feel like is, okay, I've put in my time, or maybe it's even a whole day. Maybe it's like Monday is my admin day. Tuesday, then I can do something fun. Wednesday's an admin, whatever it is, something like that. Like I have to do this penance, pay these dues before I can do the really fun thing that I like to do. And that's how I've been approaching it. It's like, it would be irresponsible to just do the thing I enjoy the most of the time. Problem is, my job, I don't know if you know this, is being a YouTube creator. And part of being a YouTube creator is making videos.
I know.
It's weird that that's not the top priority then.
It's weird. It's not even that it's weird that it's not the top priority. It's the bottom.
It is the last priority because it's the thing that I feel guilty for doing.
Bottom.
Yeah.
That is insane. Like that's literally like telling, I don't know, like telling an Uber driver not to pick up people. Like that's the thing.
But I mean, well, okay, but I also taught as a public school teacher for 11 years. Especially by the end, so little of my time was spent teaching.
Right.
That was what I loved doing.
It was, yeah.
And I've even heard like stand-up comics talk about like, oh, I perform for free. My fees come from all the travel. Like I charge to go on the road and travel and do all that kind of stuff. The time I'm on stage, that's free. And that's because it's sort of like that same kind of thing. Like I really like teaching. Well, in order to get to the point where I could teach, I have to put up with all this other complete insanity to maybe carve out a small chunk of time each day where I can be like in the zone with this group of people learning about a specific topic. And that's just sort of how things feel like they should work. And so that's when I'm my own boss and in charge of my own channel. It's like, okay, you want to do that. We need to do all this other stuff. You need to,
I know,
do all your homework before you can go out and play.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And so
and operating under that for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little tiring.
It's a lot tiring.
Well, I mean, I can see why you really felt like you were in control.
Yeah, and then we want to do something different. You want to like do something extra.
Experiment.
You want to experiment with something.
Yeah, why
don't you do more live streams?
Yeah.
You say you like live streams. Why don't you ever do them? Like why don't? Oh my God, no. Like the last thing I want. Like how could I?
Yeah.
Because
it's not even no. It's just how. When.
It really is. It's not possible.
Yeah, because if the bottom priority, if the last priority on your list is making videos, then geez, live stream is under that.
Yeah. Or like, oh, maybe you could make 2 videos a week or something. It's like, no, I can't.
Yeah. There's no time. There's no energy.
Right. And so realizing that is a problem. That was a problem. And then flipping it. Okay, what if making this stuff is the top priority?
And everything is in service of
everything is in service of that. And some things don't even need to be there anymore. They're the support stakes that the tree has outgrown. You just don't even need them there anymore. that's a huge like paradigm shift in how I operate.
Yeah. And just thinking of that and being aware of that, I feel like has already been life-changing.
Yeah, well, because that puts me in the driver's seat. That puts me in control. The problem I was having a few weeks ago, last time we recorded, that is it sounds so obvious, but there's no way to see that without stepping back and realizing it, clearing out all the other voices and then looking at like, wait, why am I doing all this? Why am I making myself like go through this just so I can do the thing I really like to do? There's no...
And it's so funny because it's like, it's so clear. It's like so obvious. Like the YouTube creator should be making YouTube videos, dude. Like that should be priority one.
It should be, yeah. But I mean, go listen to podcasts about YouTube. Go listen to interviews with YouTubers and see how they never talk about making YouTube videos. It's like not a thing that pops up in discussion because it's so easy to feel like you should be focusing on the other things and you should be, like...
Well, so let me ask you this. Now that you've come to this big realization, now that you feel like you're in control and, you've felt this flip side of total silence and being able to hear your own voice, how will you proceed? Like now that your sabbatical is over, like what's the balance? And I know, obviously you're not going to have it all figured out and it'll change and stuff, but how what are you going to do after you turn this off? Like,
I still haven't checked things.
You've said that.
I know. It's so strange.
Well, I do want to point out that, like, if that is something that is a point of pride, maybe you shouldn't be checking as often.
Well, I mean, we haven't talked about.
We haven't talked.
We said I haven't checked analytics, but what does that mean?
So, how often did you check?
I checked YouTube Studio either on my phone or my desktop, not just every day.
That's a given.
Yeah, that's
I think a lot of people do that.
Definitely every day for 6 years, which again, you want to make sure things are up and running.
That's so many days, man.
It is so many days, but I checked it, I would say at least 20 to 30 times a day. Because it's just so easy. You open your phone to check an email, respond to a text message, let's flip here, just double, okay.
I know that because I'm also speaking for myself. I know that got to a point where it's habitual and compulsive.
Yeah, you don't even realize you're doing it.
Yeah, but... Could you explain why, or what were you looking for?
No, I mean I couldn't, and that what I noticed was when I did this 2 weeks, I moved all those apps to like the back page on my phone, so they weren't on the front page where they normally are.
Did you open the apps that you put in that place?
I know, just reflexively.
I've totally done that,
and I remember thinking like. But it was like my thumb would be going towards it, and I'd be like, "Wait, why?
Why is that icon
Why would
different?"
I even? Yeah. Well, it's like what? Why do I even want to do this? Right? There's nothing.
Right, because you disrupt the pattern,
and it's tough because you need to check those things, which is why I would love it. I know we've talked.
I know.
I would love it if YouTube dashboard were modular and you could just choose what bits of info you want to display there, because then have nothing there at all. But anyway.
Do you think checking 20, 30 times a day, even daily, let me ask you this, checking daily will help you make better YouTube videos?
No, not at all. No. I never thought it helped me make better YouTube videos. I thought it was in service of the channel. And I want to make sure the channel is doing well. I want to make sure the channel's doing well and it's up and running and things are happening. But checking every day you're looking for an overall trend. You're not looking for the micro peaks and valleys that happen every day. You don't need to see these things every day to get the overall trend. You really don't. But you do need, I need to know every day that my channel is not wiped off the face of the earth. Like, I think that's important.
Yeah. Considering it's, our bread and butter.
But a way to do that is to just go to the channel homepage on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which the subscriber number doesn't even change unless it only changes once every 1,000. So it'll stay at whatever it is now until it goes 1,000 more, and then it'll go up. So I'm not even getting any day-to-day info from that. But
you'll get the thing of channel's still on.
Channel's still up, videos are still up.
There.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, even a few weeks ago, YouTube did a thing where half the videos disappeared.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, scary. So I get why we have to make sure everything's
We've known people who've had their channels hacked and taken over and deleted and stuff. Like, that is a thing, and that I've done podcast episodes about security, but you can do that just going to youtube.com/your URL.
And you don't need to check analytics.
Yeah, and And even the
often.
video view count that's on the homepage is not accurate. It's usually lower than whatever it actually is. And so even if you see view counts there, my point being, you can check that. And even though there are numbers, there's a subscriber number, there's video view numbers, they're meaningless because the subscriber number doesn't change that often and the video view counts are inaccurate. So you're not actually getting any of that info there. You're just able to see if things are up and running. And that's all you would need to check, which would...
I think there's a huge difference with like being intentional about it, right? So if you're like, okay, today is like, or I'm going to check my channel analytics and here's what I'm looking for.
Right.
Then you do that. Okay. That's very different from like, what are you mindlessly picking up
the other thing too is
and,
like, because another thing is, which I've done this in the past and it has been really, really helpful, is the 10-minute comments.
Yeah.
Where you can go, it's been literally a full-time job just going into comments and things. But what I did was set up a bookmark on my desktop browser. And I did this like 2 years ago, probably, where it just goes straight to the comments page. So I can bypass YouTube Studio. I don't see any of the analytics. I just jump into the discussion. And then I'll just set a timer for 10 minutes. And just, if I spend 10 minutes answering one, because I go super in depth, or I go through 100 somehow in 10 minutes, doesn't matter. There's no quota. It's just, here's a chunk of time. And I've really loved that. Like when I do that, the time that I set flies by because I'm sitting there going, I'm intentionally going into it.
Yeah.
I know that most of the stuff I see is going to be like either positive or neutral. Like it's positive, someone saying them nice, or it's neutral, someone just asking a question.
That's been all of them except for one.
Yeah. And I know that there are negative things, but because I'm going into it, like steeling myself.
Yeah.
Okay. You might also see something that is frustrating or negative,
right,
and be ready for that. When you're checking randomly, what happens
mindlessly
is the comments will just sometimes pop up or get filtered in, or especially if you go to the desktop.
You are not
YouTube
in
Studio.
the driver's seat.
Yeah, the most recent ones are there.
For a ride.
Oh, so then you see why not? Well, I'll click on those. I could respond to those, and suddenly now you have spent 20 minutes replying to a bunch of stuff you didn't intend to. You have a bunch of people up in your head. If there were negative things, it got you with your guard down.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, so I'm supposed to then move on and be in a headspace to do something creatively, which is a part of it. And like, if you come from a background where it's like you clock in and do your job and clock out and go home, it sounds so... It just sounds like, oh, you're not in the headspace to do your YouTube job. Oh, you poor thing. But like, yeah, no, I can't. That's such a thing that it is overlooked.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry,
go.
I've done episodes about this where people talk about gear, people talk about equipment. Anyone can make a YouTube video, anyone can do that. The thing that's often overlooked is the part where if you're the person who's on camera doing stuff, that is a thing. Like being ready to be on camera, recording something, knowing that the world's going to see it. It's a thing, and it's not always easy. It takes a skill to do that. That's why everyone can go back and look at their first videos and be like, "Oh my god!" And then you look at, you see the growth in just the on-camera presence and capabilities of someone. But it also means if you're thrown into a terrible headspace, how can you be in a space where you can make something, and then people are so good at picking up on things that if you try to just power through, you're in this funky mood, but you try to power through, it comes
totally
through.
Comes off, yeah.
And people can pick up on it. And so it's like...
And you're not creating the best content that you can.
No, and so what I had been doing prior, which, I mean, this should have been a sign, but it wasn't. What I'd been doing prior is if I knew like, okay, today I'm going to record a video. Awesome. I'll set everything up. I love the ritual of setting everything up. Because I love making videos. I'm excited to make a video. I purposely would make sure I don't check anything until I'm done recording the video.
See, that should have been a sign.
Should have been a sign.
Yeah.
Because
Why did you do that?
Right. Because it would risk throwing off my attention, putting in new ideas into my head. And I just wanted to focus on my one thing over here, or it would throw off my mood or something. And it's like, yeah, that should be a sign.
Like you're already doing it.
Yeah. So, but it just got baked into the system as like, in my mind, I think I was saying like, well, because I want to focus on making the video. I don't want to focus on anything else, which is true, but it's like, why?
Yeah.
And so I guess to answer your question, analytics, I think checking a couple times a week for me is probably good. Maybe 2 to 3 times a week is probably more than enough.
I mean, I'm not going to judge you if you check every day.
I mean, you know, stuff changes. Like, yeah. I mean, but I don't think there's any benefit to checking more than that. And I think that, like, I mean, truthfully, like, I think checking that the channel's up and running.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think one of the cool things that we've been able to discover in the past 2 weeks is that it's actually really a fun, productive thing to let your mind wander.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's not hurting checking analytics, but it is preventing you from letting your mind wander.
Yeah. And
who knows what you might discover? You might discover nothing. You might just stare at the wall. But what if, like, I don't know, your mind makes a connection between this thing and a thing from your past, 8 years ago, and boom, you come up with a message board.
Well, and check. Yeah, you do. And checking the analytics. I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
I dropped a ball.
You did.
I just feel like it's.
Oh, I was going to, with the intentionality behind it. That's what I was going to say, is it's the same thing as with the comments. If I sit down, like today, at some point today, I'm going to open my YouTube studio because I really want to know what happened. But that's going to be it for a while. Check in, and that's it. And I'm not doing it compulsively, where like now we're at a restaurant and you're going to the restroom or something. So it's like, just and now, no, guard.
Yeah. And also, like, who knows what's happening at the restaurant that can give you an idea.
Or just to enjoy time, right? It's not even like, oh, well, I could be mining this for more work stuff, which, that can totally happen.
Yeah. Like, I need to be mining this.
Since I haven't been watching YouTube for the past few weeks, I've been watching other like shows and stuff, which have given me so many ideas for like, oh, this would be cool. Like,
it's like, everything is fresh.
Yeah. And that's
even what you bring up with me,
Right. And that's really cool. And that happens because
and I feel like that's where the ideas where you're really excited about come from.
Like a message board. Which is a good example. So it's probably worth talking, because the thing that freaked me out, one of the things that freaked me out when we started talking about taking time off was like, I hate doing nothing and I don't want to sit around and just do nothing. You've tried to get me to do nothing. I had COVID and you essentially locked me into a room.
Yeah, but he brought his laptop in there. God, this guy
I recorded a podcast with a nasally congested voice.
Oh my gosh.
That was last fall. It wasn't during this time. I don't like doing nothing.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that freaked me out. And then the thing that happened with this whole 2 weeks. So what was interesting is as soon as we talked about taking the time off, I felt a huge sense of relief. So that was probably a sign like it was a good thing to do.
And then you felt trapped.
Well, for the first 5 days or so, I felt great. It felt like the first days of summer vacation after school.
Just like,
freedom. Oh my God. I can think about doing all these things. I don't have to work. Like, it was great. And then it hit a point where the restrictiveness of like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, really started to set in, and I got really frustrated. And it felt like I was really confused, genuinely confused. Like
I felt like you were juggling, like, I'm done.
Well, because I thought like maybe I have gotten like I have gotten everything I'm going to get out of this, and now I'm just going to be pounding my head into a wall for a week and a half, and I'm going to be frustrated about doing that. But there was also a part of me that was like, there could be a chance, though, that if you power through, there will be some sort of big like revelation or leveling up or whatever. And I really didn't know which it was. But since there was the possibility of a big growth, it was worth a try. Why not at least try? And thank God, because there was. I mean, that was where a lot of cool breakthroughs and stuff happened. But part of that also was when I was feeling frustrated. It was like really thinking about like what I'm doing here and why I want to do it. And so one of the things, since you've known me, I've talked about message boards, like old school internet message boards, like PHP, BB, vBulletin kind of stuff that just aren't popular. Like in 2001, 2002,
I mean,
everywhere.
It's not that they're not popular. They are dead. Like I haven't seen one.
I mean, there's like you go to macrumors.com, which is the biggest Apple rumors. They have a huge message board. There's a photographer. There's a handful of really popular ones out there because it's the only option in those ecosystems or whatever. But yeah, I mean, everybody has
very rare.
Everybody has a Discord or a other
new things
community or something
that kind of serve a similar purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and are way more like futuristic, feature-based, efficient,
yeah.
all that stuff. They do not work for me. I don't like them. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
That's fine.
It is what it is.
But I think like you've tried to force it.
I've tried so hard.
Yeah, you have 3 Discord servers just for you.
Yeah, I do. I have one for each course and then one for like channel members.
Yeah.
And I forget what, I think it was with like Twitter imploding on itself and like just the tone of like social media in general before this past few weeks. I was like, I would really love to see how you can make a message board now. And so unfortunately, like it's always a little bit tricky. So I kind of like signed up for some hosting where I can install a message board on a server, and like literally it's the same like PHP BB software, which is free open source software it's the same freaking software, like has not changed, which I love. And I had built message boards in high school. Like I would do like Aquabats fan message boards, and our band would have a message board, even though, we were barely not a band, like whatever. But I'd make message boards because it was really fun. I was like, wow, it's kind of fun to like think about doing this. And so I couldn't get it to work. And like I couldn't,
and
I was just like,
and that's fine. It's not
and I
worth
was like,
it.
yeah,
Sure.
I can't do it. I'll ask for a refund, whatever. And I had an idea. I guess my brain was working on that problem in the background. And during the time off, suddenly something clicked where I was like, oh my God, I think I might know how to fix the problem, why it's not working. And then I felt like, but I'm not allowed to, because that's like, I'm working on a website. I can't do that. And then I just had to make the decision of like, no, I'm gonna, because that's, to me, that was so different from checking YouTube analytics.
I didn't think you were like cheating at all. I didn't think that was it's
so
what
different.
I saw was for the boundaries was don't do the system that you built in the past 6 years. This is not that.
This is not that.
Yeah.
No.
This is totally new. And I was like, if anything, this is what you're making room for. Is this stuff.
And so what I did was I came out one morning and was like, okay, let me see. I tried my little thing and it worked. And so there was like an empty message board up and running.
12 hours went by.
Well, 12 hours that day and then 12 hours the next day went by. But it was like, okay, it's working. I'll just leave it up. Now I know when I come back, hey, I got a thing to work on. I was like, well, why does this work over here? What could I do this too?
Sure.
And then it was total flow state of
complete, like I haven't seen you like that where you were genuinely having fun.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like work, but
but it was 12 plus hours for multiple days. Yeah.
And it's not about whether it's work or play, but you were just in the zone.
And I wasn't even tired at the end of it.
Yeah. No, I turned off the PlayStation first. Usually it's
because it was late at night and you were like, I'm done and I'm going to bed. And I was like,
laptop on.
Yeah.
Laptop.
Gotta edit these PHP.css files over here.
Yeah. And then you're like, it's like 10 p.m.
Yeah. And then so I put this message board together and I was like, this is really cool. And I honestly kind of didn't even have a purpose for it. But I was like, I kind of want that. And I was like, here's what I want to do is get rid of my Discords, get rid of like random email tech support stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the things that give you grief, that take a lot of time, like because you're forcing yourself to kind of communicate in a way that is hard, right?
Yeah, it's like, hey, Tom, you're kind of bad at Spanish, but you can only speak Spanish right now. And it's like, okay, but now I'm going to feel really
it's like everyone's using Discord. So like, obviously that's the thing that you have to use.
Right.
But like, I mean, to this day, I can't with Discord. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. And I don't think it's worked for you as like the host.
Well, it's just, I mean, for a lot of there's things I like. I love the people in there, and I love some of the stuff we're able to talk about. I just have a really hard time following things.
Yeah, like my brain just isn't like I can't.
My brain works as an early 2000s message board. There's no algorithms. Everything's chronological. There's no ads. There's no data
no one's
mining.
Trying to sell you something.
There's nothing. It's just chronological posts, and you can find something from a year ago and add to it if you want to. And that's it. And it's searchable and it's easy. And So that's what I built was that. And then I'm going to transition. It's not a free for everybody, but for channel members and for people in courses, there's a whole message board. There's separate forms for each thing. There's a whole thing of like setting permissions and user groups and all the stuff.
The mad scientist in his lab. You were in it and you were having the best time.
Well, and then a thing I realized too. So one, that's what I want to do. And so
yeah, so that's a change.
The fun thing was just building this thing for days and putting in a ton of hours just building this thing was really fun.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself is worth it. And then the change of putting myself in the driver's seat, like I have told you, I'd love to have a message. No, you can't have it. No, people want a Discord. Okay, they do.
I mean, talk about what is not a best practice.
Yeah.
Turning off your Discords, turning off these like ways to get in contact with you, for brands to get in contact with you, turning this off and then building something from the freaking 90s. It goes against everything.
Right.
But who effing cares?
Right.
Like,
because that's what I want to do. And if
that's what matters.
And if it's something that I want to keep, if it's my thing that I want to keep doing into the future, having it not be an exhausting ordeal to deal with is the way to do that. So to take the best parts of this stuff and put it over here in this thing is great. And then I even had the realization of like, oh, message boards aren't dead because they don't work. They're dead because they're really hard to set up. Anybody can set up a Discord.
And it's so easy to set up a Discord.
It takes you 2
one
seconds.
Click. Yeah.
Yeah. But a message board, not that many people want to go into.
It's hard to set up a Discord, but
I mean,
it's a lot more
get
accessible.
It going.
Yeah.
But there's also like you can watch a 12-year-old kid on YouTube teach you how to like create the coolest Discord server ever in an hour. And like you can get it up and running perfectly in an hour or two.
For sure. Yeah.
Message board, no, you can't. And that's the thing. That's an accessibility thing. So of course they're not going to be as popular when all these super accessible tools have popped up. Why would someone use this? But my thought is like, okay, I'm not asking everyone to make a message board. I'm just opening one up that if people want to use it, they could. Just as users. As the user, it's super easy. You're just gonna be like, this looks kind of old. And it's very easy to just figure out. And it's slow and it's
But it's
old school.
But you are creating the forum where you can have engaging discussions with the people who are obviously like self-selecting, because it's going to be someone who is willing to put up with a message board, is willing to, pay your channel membership,
well, it's like if
I'm a supporter of you, is interested in the same things. They've already they're that type of person to make it through. And those are the types of people that you want to have these conversations with about audio, video, or whatever.
Someone shouldn't open up like an Italian restaurant if they hate Italian food.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be really frustrating every time they go to work. You're like, God, it's freaking noodles and there's pasta everywhere. If they really love Mexican food, open the Mexican restaurant. And yes, there are people who love Italian food that won't go to the Mexican restaurant. And that's okay. But the person who's opening that restaurant that now has the food they really love is going to be so much happier when they go to the restaurant every day. And
I think the thing to realize is like with YouTube, it's hard not to do it the way that it's supposed to be, because again, it's new and it's like, well, I don't know who's anyone to define how it's supposed to be done. But I think part of what we do as creators is create an experience for the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just an extension of that. So yeah, accessibility through Discord is a way that people can reach you.
And it works great for some people.
But at the sacrifice of it now feeling like a chore for you. So you're not even really engaging fully because you hate it. But on the message board, like, it works for you, and it's going to work for the people who make it through. If you don't want to be there, that's cool.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing, is like, it's fine.
And that's why the message board is it's such a good example.
You're not trying to get everyone to sign up for the message board, join the mailing list. I mean, none.
I could very well like open it up and nobody signs up. That doesn't matter. The point is, it's an idea that didn't come from the other voices. It was an idea that came from my thing, and I had so much fun putting so much time into it. And I'm really I get like when I check it and go to that page, I get like joy.
Get so excited looking
just
at
seeing
it. Yeah.
Because it feels like going home. It feels familiar. It's like, oh my God, this is what I wanted.
But it's the same feeling of like making a video that you're super proud of, and you're like, look at this, like check out this angle.
But that's what I want to take for
everything.
Yeah, I want to take that same idea to a thing I knew I wasn't going to do over the past few weeks was make a video, because there's no, like, sure, I could have this idea in my own, but there's no, like that I was like,
you're not going to cross that line.
I'm not going to cross that line. But now taking that same idea and that same approach of like, what is my inner voice? What can I put into this thing that happens to be my art? And what do I want to do that's the most interesting at this given point in time? Because that is what I want to do. And the fear that I've had in the past of that not being good for an audience, I think is unfounded, because that right there, the same way that people can pick up on somebody who's like, they're not in the right headspace while they're making this video, they can pick up on this person is really like, they can feel the passion behind
not into
something.
This. Yeah.
But the opposite is true too. So they can feel like, yeah, okay, maybe this isn't the topic that would make the most sense to talk about right now or whatever, but you can feel the excitement behind it. Hopefully me being excited about making the thing literally makes the video better. And you and I have talked about this. We both love explaining things and teaching things. We sort of have come to the conclusion that after all of this time, when it comes to things like videos, what we make is innately helpful to some degree. So you don't have to sit there and prescribe like
try to make it helpful. It will be by its very nature.
Right.
Because that's just who we are. Like that is just how we are. So unless we intentionally make something unhelpful, it will be
I think the
helpful.
biggest risk would be framing something wrong. So like title and thumbnail, not even clickbait, but just incorrect. Like, if you frame something as like, here's how to do this real quick, and then it's like, but you kind of take someone on a personal journey of like creative exploration. They're like, I just wanted to know what settings to turn on this device. That's going to frustrate people. But that also just comes from like, I mean, we've joked about this. Like, it would be great if you could just title your YouTube video like camerareview.mov, but you can't because of the platform. But kind of, what if you can? Like, not.
Well, so here's the difference. I think here's a very important thing to point out, especially for, people listening, is that like, I would not necessarily suggest having done this on day one. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think,
like starting the channel?
No, starting the message board.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I think the difference now is that, like, again, you have the mastery, you have this experience, and you've also had the flip side of like wonder and joy, just like pure, the wonder of it all that isn't bogged down by shoulds and supposed to's and the right
thing
ways.
That emerged for me, one of the things that emerged for me was making a message board, but that's almost irrelevant because where it came from was the idea of listening to my own inner voice,
right,
and following my own curiosity and creativity and interests.
I just don't want someone to listen to this and be like, "Oh, the answer is a message board," like
probably isn't.
Yeah, like I think that the answer is developing your skill set, being confident in a mastery of your craft.
Right.
But then also not like the hard part after you've checked that box, right? After you've paid your dues, after you've you have a silver play button. Like, you've checked all these boxes. The hard part now is like, how do you listen to your inner voice?
Well, I think that's what you said. You start a thing from a place of wonder, you build the skills of mastery, and now I think the thing that a lot of people, myself included, overlook is then going back to the place of wonder with the skills.
Cook becomes the chef. Like, go experiment. Go, like, now that you know how to do it, make it your own.
Right.
I
mean, how many movies are there?
I know. It's like so obvious.
Okay, to bring it back to hockey, I'm going to talk about the Mighty Ducks real quick. Because there's Emilio Estevez. He was, up and coming hockey player. And then he like blew the play. I don't know why this pressure was on this 9-year-old kid or whatever to like win the whole playoffs or whatever. Anyway, he blew it. They lost. And then he just became like the winningest sleazy attorney ever. And it's a weirdly dark movie if you've watched. He gets a DUI and then is sentenced to unsupervised community service with a bunch of kids.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, it makes a lot of no sense. But he gets there, these kids, they can't play hockey, they're terrible. And he's just like disgusted with them and whatever, and he's frustrated by them. And he ends up visiting the guy who runs like the old pro shop. He's like this older guy who like, you know, he's like,
the Yoda.
He's the Yoda.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got a brand new pair of skates for you. Why don't you take these and just remember why you do this? And there's a whole scene where he goes out to the frozen lake in the middle of the night. He puts on the skates and it's just him like skating around and like remembering. Right. Like, I think he even has flashbacks to being a kid and just like, God, this was really fun to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts to realize, like, he even looks at the coach. He even looks at the coach which was so weird because this guy's still coaching like a Pee Wee hockey team 25 years later. But for some reason, he's like the coolest guy in the world. It's like, I feel like maybe his career didn't go where he wanted it to go. But anyway, his coach becomes his like, you know, the Ducks go against the Hawks and it's the whole thing. But that's the coach that like built him up and all those things. And he's realizing like, you're tearing these kids down, and he's then taking a totally different approach with his, like, it feels kind of the same way, because it's like, this is how I've spent my whole life feeling like I should do things and this, and versus my own way of doing things, which is different and sometimes a little bit messy, but like it seems to be working over here for us in this way. And you know, there's so many movies like that where someone will be like big city chef or whatever, and the pressure of the big city, and then they go back home. It's usually a romantic comedy on like Hallmark or something. They go back home and he's like, I'm never cooking again. And then there's a scene later in the movie where him and like the girl next door are, you know, just happily making pasta in the kitchen. Not a pasta. You know, you can imagine. I don't even know. This isn't even a real movie, but you can picture this movie. Now they're doing the thing that he, you know, like. Even in Bridesmaids, she's all devastated because her bakery closed.
Yeah.
But then she goes home and like makes the cupcake for herself and all this stuff. Like,
but even though this is all around us, it's so hard. It's like really hard, especially, you know, we run our own business. We want to do it right.
Yeah. We want to pay our bills.
I know,
we
like,
want to do that
obviously,
stuff.
like, we want to be able to, you know, have our needs met, and we're also doing something very unconventional. There's no one else that we know that does this. You know, it's like in our lives at least, or that we can even look to as an example. So, and then anyone who kind of knows has no idea.
And everybody, I mean, everybody I've met who's does YouTube a little bit differently. So it's not
it's different for everybody. Exactly.
Yeah. So they're you can kind of, you can sort of get ideas from how people approach things, but even that can be tough and difficult because you find someone it's one thing to go on YouTube and like see how somebody does something, like, oh, maybe I should do something like that. It's another to have like friends go, oh, they do things that maybe I should do things the way they're doing. And then now I feel like I'm doing something wrong if I'm doing things, but they're doing things their way because that's what they have decided works. Like, it's so different for everybody. And that's why silencing those voices and just listening to the inner voice,
making room to listen to the voice is like to your voice, your soul, your consciousness, your ideas, whatever it is. Like, I just don't think it's something we actively did before. You kind of like, you know, the idea is lightning, so you kind of just wait for it to strike. But there's actually like, you could be intentional about it.
Or it's even the opposite, where it's like you discredit your voice.
Yeah.
Or you're like, here's my voice saying this. Can I find something that like validates it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, you don't need to. Or at least I have gotten to a point where I feel like, no, I don't need to. I just want to do the thing I want because I want to keep doing this. And I don't want to feel that out of control feeling, which was like so minor, but it set off all the little internal alarms of just like something is off. And I'm really happy that happened for all this to happen.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't want that to happen again. And I just don't want that to happen again.
But I think like, yeah, it's hard when you don't know what to pay attention to, you know, but I think now that you have, like, now that you've seen what total silence is like. Now there's just another option. And now that we've like, paid attention to this idea of like flipping your priorities. Yeah. Well, like, what it's like to be in total control. It's not about not being in total control, but I think like if your end goal is to make YouTube videos and you're lucky that you do have fun.
Yeah.
Then like even more reason that
it just feels
like the
wrong,
chef should cook. What the hell? Like what? Is the chef gonna go like answer emails? Like go cook. Why is it so hard for YouTube? Well, it should be the same.
I think for me
go
too.
Do your thing.
I know we're kind of like getting to the end, but I think what I've been realizing too is just the idea of boundaries and the idea that like
that's another episode.
It is a whole other episode. But the thought I'm having right now is like, I keep using analogies because I don't know, you and I talk in analogies and they work. And I keep thinking of a band playing a show. You buy your ticket, you go see the band plays the show. Maybe they do an encore. That's great. Maybe you can kind of say hi to them after the show, but it wouldn't be right to then request a song for them after the show and have the expectation of like, they will definitely get out their instruments and play for me if I request a song over here. And the band member definitely wouldn't consider like, oh, I should do 15 private concerts now because people in the line are asking for it. No, that's just not how it's set up. And it's not, and this kind of feels in a similar way where it's like, I feel so bad if there's questions that it's all different, and I don't even want to go too far into it, but when there are those questions that you do have the answer to, it's like, well, those might even be in another video on this channel, and those videos, that's the place to go. And maybe I can kind of like find ways once in a while to sort of help otherwise, but like this is the venue for that. This is just not like it's just not possible, and not feeling. But
I think like you needed to.
It's a very hard thing. It's a very hard thing.
It's not like, oh, never ask me a question again. It's just that you feel guilty when you don't get to everything.
But of course, like, I mean,
it's just going to get more and more. So
the number of times though too that I've seen people go like, hey Tom, do you have you should make a video that compares this thing to that thing. And then somebody else will go like, oh, he did that here and post the thing. Sometimes like it will get answered by someone else.
Yeah,
like I don't even need to be the
actually.
one. And that's amazing. And like so it doesn't even have to be me that like there are plenty of other people who can provide insights and things.
Obviously the people who are watching that are all into the thing. So,
and it's, and there is still that line that's tough to navigate between what you said. There's a lot of questions that are asked that they don't care who's answering it. They just want to answer their question. So I probably don't need to spend a ton of time on that. But the tough one is when it is, like you can tell someone cares and somebody has given their time.
They've watched a lot of Tom Buck and they want Tom Buck to be the one to answer this question. They believe, that you could be the one to answer the question.
And that's where it's still like, okay, that's where I feel like, okay, when I spend my allotted time every so often going through it, that's the thing to focus on.
If we had all the time in the world, then yeah.
For sure.
But we don't. And so it's just a matter, it's not like, it's nothing personal. It's just that we only have like limited time, limited attention.
But so, it's like that boundary thing, like the chef, like, the chef could sit there and answer a million questions about how they cook their food. They could do, or they could just go make more food.
Or my favorite thing lately has been Stephen King, which I'm not even like a big Stephen King fan, but for some reason he's like my inspo right now. But yeah, Stephen King isn't answering questions about writing. He's just writing.
Right.
Or when he asks questions, or when he answers questions, it's like, okay, he'll do a talk and then there will always be a Q&A. Like there's the forum for it, the time for it, the venue for it. But other than that, he's writing.
He's doing the thing that makes people interested in the first place.
Yeah. And more importantly, he's doing the thing that he loves doing, which is writing.
Yeah, his craft, his art, his whole thing. Right.
Which is like, I think because we have looked at this as a business. We've never looked at it as like a writer or an artist or,
Well, it was always, that was the stuff we liked the most, but that was always the secondary.
That's not like legit though. You know, like
Right.
we have to do it like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Work is supposed to suck. So
Work
it's
is
supposed to hurt.
Yeah. All right. As we wrap up, is there any last
No,
things that we want to cover?
I think it's it. But I'm very excited for you.
I am too. And I'm excited for you too, because this ended up being kind of a cool thing for both of us. But I'm also really appreciative for you keeping things going every day for the whole time. I wouldn't have been able to like relax otherwise.
No, I know.
So thank you very much.
Peace of mind. Sure.
All right. And thank you for listening. I hope there's something there in our experience that is interesting or gives you a thought or something to apply to your own thing. Doesn't mean do it the same way. It just means hopefully there's something interesting there. And appreciate the time. Appreciate all the kindness and support. Even if I'm not able to say it directly every time, it is very appreciated.
Or answer your question.
It is appreciated very, very much. So thanks for listening. Thanks for everything. I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy, fun rest of your week. And we will see you next time.